Hi, I'm David Putman, founder of Planting the Gospel, where we help churches transition from a weekend-only culture to a disciple-making culture. I'm also a lead navigator with Oxano, where we believe that clarity isn't everything, but it changes everything. And I want to talk with you about a tool that we have called the Horizon Storyline. If you are familiar with the vision frame, then you know that there's 5 irreducible questions of leadership that we must answer when we build out our vision frame. And so I'm going to deal with just the 5th question today, and that's simply, hey, where is God ultimately taking us? And so the 5 questions are: what are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? When are we successful? But again, right now we're going to talk about where God is ultimately taking us. And so if you think about the vision frame, the vision frame goes on the outside of what we call our horizon storyline. So I'm going to draw it here real quickly. And so you can see, you'll recognize it now. And so what we're really doing is just talking about inside the frame. And this is an incredible planning tool that is both strategic and tactical in nature. It's about direction. You know, when you look at the frame, the outside of the frame is about our identity. The inside is about direction, where God is taking us. Now, keep in mind that if you have a picture inside the frame, you have a picture without a frame, the picture falls apart. So it's important that you do the outside work, the identity work. What are we doing? Our mission. Why are we doing it? Values. How are we doing it? Strategy. When are we successful? Measures. But once we've done that, and sometimes we even begin with the where question, we're ready to move on to where is God ultimately taking us. Now, as a church plant, it's important that you have a clear vision of where God is taking you, because I promise you that there are a lot of visions that are floating around out there, and there's a lot of visions that will be imposed upon you by well-intended people. So therefore, you need to do the deep processing work where convictions are born and where clarity happens. And so that's what we're talking about here. Now think about, there's a scripture in Proverbs 29:18 says that where there's no vision, the people perish. Now there's another translation, that's the old King James Version translation. The NIV translation is where there's no revelation, people cast off restraints. And that's sort of the picture that having a visionless church plant paints for me, is that when I don't have a clear, compelling vision, a clear word from God, then people just sort of go in all kinds of direction, doing their own things, and there's never any real true synergy. No disciples are ultimately made. And so let's walk through this horizon storyline. Another term that we use to describe it is what we call our 1-4-1-4. Now, if you add those up, it equals 10, and we never have more than 10 big goals at any given time. It's a very simple tool that's easy to implement. Now, when you think about vision, God has created us and given us, our eyes so that we can see, so that we can have vision. And they're very sophisticated when you think about the way we see. We have the ability to see different horizons. For example, I can look outside, look through the window, and I see something we call beyond the horizon, which is the blue sky, maybe the sun, the moon, whatever it might be, but it's over the horizon. It's beyond the horizon. It's the furthest distance that my eyes see. And so in our planning process, we have what we call beyond the horizon. And for us, that's a 5 to 20 year horizon. Now let me say something here that's unique to a church plant. I would never go over 5 years, because in a church plant, just getting started, 5 years is an eternity. And if you don't get this stuff done in 5 years, you won't have a church. So we'll begin with a 5-year horizon that we're going to look at. Now back to looking outside, and if I look, another horizon that my eyes may lock on is what we call a background horizon. And background might be the trees, the house lines, whatever it might be. But for us, from a time stamp perspective, that's a 3-year horizon. So at 5 years, we're saying, hey, where is God taking us? What is this ultimate? What does it mean for this church to be planted over the next 5 years and established? And then at that background horizon level, we're asking another question, has to do with direction, and it's, hey, in order to get there, after we form that ideal picture, that mountaintop and milestone of what it looks like in 5 years, now we're asking the question, hey, what is it that we have to accomplish in the next 3 years if we're going to get there? What are the rocks that we've got to blow up? What are the objectives that we've got to achieve? What are the mountains that we've got to climb? And we reduce them down to 4, so we have a 1-4. You see, this is our strategic picture of where God is taking us. Now, here's the part that I really love. If you keep looking, once again, we're looking out the window, the ways our eyes operate, and then we have what we call a mid-ground horizon. And by mid-ground, those are those things that aren't right up on us, but they're not far away. Maybe it's across the parking lot. There's some cars sitting there. That's my mid-ground horizon. I can't touch it, but I'm not far from it, and I can get to it if I have a good plan. And so that's mid-ground, and we call that 1 year. And so 1-4, our 5-year plan is one big idea, our big 4 background ideas, and then we come down to our mid-ground. Again, the question that we're answering there, this is so key. Hey, what's the one thing? What's the one thing that we can do together that will move us in the direction of fulfilling our vision like nothing else? It's the principle of simplicity. Hey, let's face it, one thing is a challenge for most of us. Many of us, we would rather do 5 or 10 things, and when that happens, seldom do we get anything done. And so the question we're asking at this point, what is the one thing? What is the one thing? What is the one thing that we can do over the next 12 months that's going to chip away at these 4 rocks and is going to move us towards our trajectory and our vision like never before? And when so once we have that 1 year goal, maybe for a church plant, the first year, our one thing is to establish a core group of 50 people who are bought into the vision. Not a bad 1 year, is it? Or 25 people. Or give me 10. I'll take the world. Whatever your context will determine a lot the size of your group. But what would happen if you said, hey, we're not going to worry so much about how great our worship services are and how neat our branding is. But the one thing that we're going to do in our first year is we're going to build deep into a core of disciples that will storm the beaches of hell with us. Or we might say the gates of hell. Now, that's just an example of a milestone. The next year you come along, and let's say you've got your 25 core group members, and you say, hey, what's our second year? What's our second year? 1 year mid-ground milestone. And every year you reset that. But once you set it, then the last horizon, if you look, and these are the things that are coming right up on us, like this beautiful mosaic tile work near where I'm standing. There's pews where I'm standing. There's beautiful stained glass. It's all right here up on me. And we call this foreground, our foreground initiative. And so the time stamp is 90 days. And so this is where God is leading us, back to my example, developing a core group, a solid core group of 25 people over the next 12 months. Then what are the 4 90-day initiatives that I have to accomplish? What are the 4 things I have to do? You know. And all of a sudden that one mid-ground milestone gets really big, because I'm thinking, hey, I've got to have vision clarity. So I've got to really hone in on clarity of vision, you know. Another thing is that I've got to develop some kind of ministry process for discovery and engaging people in the right place. And you could go on and on. Maybe there's certain other things that have to happen, but that's what we're doing in that 90-day initiative. We're getting down into the details. And this is where work happens. So if this is strategic up here, the beyond and background horizon, the midground and foreground is tactical, is where we get work done. And like I said, the rhythm is every year we come back and we reset these 5 goals here. These goals remain the same for the next 5 years. And that, my friend, is our horizon storyline. This is how we get work done. This is how we put the enormous task of church planting into 10 simple, time-sensitive milestones.